Venus squared Uranus on Saturday, January 14th, possibly bringing shakeups to your relationships, and will now conjoin Saturn on Sunday, January 22nd, making you take responsibility for your actions. Feeling melancholic, sad, and lonely is as likely as committing to a relationship and feeling a sense of accomplishment, getting recognition as well. Let's take a closer look and break this transit down for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave me a like or a comment. I really appreciate that, and it helps my channel grow and encourages me to bring more videos your way. If you'd like to work with me, you can book a reading. I am currently working on year ahead horoscopes. So if you'd like a personal horoscope to find out what's ahead for you this year, you can you can use the coupon 2023 to get $23 off the in-person year ahead reading, or you can purchase a recorded reading, which is at a different price, more affordable, in the shop category of my website. The link's down there. You can also subscribe on my website to get monthly horoscopes that are tailored to your natal chart and are written down. And additionally, if you feel like you have challenging placements in your charts and you don't quite know how to work with them, for example, you have Venus in Scorpio and you struggle trusting in relationships, or you have Mercury in Pisces and you struggle focusing and you struggle expressing yourself in a concise form, or you have Jupiter in Virgo and you struggle with optimism and criticism sort of has a very dampening effect on your optimism, you can purchase candles or oils that I have created with Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter being exceptionally strong on my website. And they can help improve those placements, and they can help connect you with higher vibrations of the planets that you're struggling with. So let's talk about this transit. It occurs at 5 exact occurrence is 5 p.m., 5:12 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, January 22nd. But transits always take some time to build, so the energy starts to be felt around January 19th, and it completely kind of goes away after January 25th. So a pretty serious period, a few days. Do you have this placement natally? Were you born with Venus conjunct Saturn? And if you are, please let me know how that feels, if you feel like you tend to be more serious in relationships, more cautious. So Venus is the planet of love, art, beauty, and things we desire. While Saturn is the planet of discipline and diligence and hard work, and Saturn says not yet. A lot of times Saturn can negate things or say do more. It's very realistic, right? So when Venus comes together with Saturn, we get like a reality check on Venusian topics. But also Venus can soften Saturn, so there's kind of a double-edged thing, as always. But this transit doesn't exist in a vacuum. We had Venus squaring Uranus on January 14th. I made a video on that, so check it out and listen. Kind of, you can find out what this could have meant for you. Could be interesting to look at it now that transit has passed. But if Venus square Uranus brought up questions of freedom in your relationship, brought up some darkness, some shadows, some secrets to the surface, revealed some surprising truths, right? Maybe you've met someone, maybe you said something that you didn't want to say. Now that Venus conjoins Saturn, you both get a chance to move on, but also a chance to like mend the situation or maybe let the situation go. Saturn will kind of come in, and if Venus in a square with Saturn was about breaking free from restrictions, now that Venus conjoins Saturn, it will be like, well, are you ready, or do you need to be patient, perhaps? So on the negatives, Venus conjunct Saturn can feel like we want to connect, but we cannot connect. Maybe there is a literal distance between you and your partner. Maybe they are in a different country. Maybe you've had a fight, but they're not picking up the phone. You're trying to mend the relationship. So feeling like lonely, isolated, melancholic, misunderstood is possible here, because as always, Saturn tests you. And if the relationship is on the rocks or it's going through a tough patch, Saturn will reveal that, and it will encourage you to work on things, right? Like this will mostly be, I think, about relationships, potentially about like works of art and creativity, a sense of self, like Venus also, I think, deals with how much you love yourself. So sometimes Venus conjunct Saturn will reveal that you need to work on self-love, because if you are too, even, if you're feeling isolated, perhaps it's your opportunity to enjoy your own company a little bit more, work on saying positive affirmations, work on your style, paint, take up a hobby that you used to love, kind of reaffirm your self-love and reaffirm how amazing you actually are and how great it is that you get to hang out with you. Try to be like structured, Saturnian about self-love around this time. You can experience financial difficulty because Venus is connected with things we desire, and sometimes financial abundance is what we desire. So watch out for that. Maybe you're not likely to feel like spending money recklessly, but if you feel like you are not in the financial place that you'd like to be patient. Like I said, relationship tests, feeling separated, feeling isolated, wanting to connect but struggling to connect, questions of longevity of a relationship, questions of, future, maybe issues with commitment, like if somebody, if in your relationship someone broke commitment, broke kind of the unspoken rules of your relationship, this might be a chance to address that. On the positive, if your relationship is healthy and strong, it will only get stronger. This could be even a chance to get closer to your partner. Like, even if you go through some kind of test and you spend some time apart, you may come together in with a more renewed sense of appreciation of one another. Another great thing I like with Venus conjunct Saturn is a sense of mastery. Venus likes beautiful things. Venus likes high quality stuff, right? Whatever it means for you, but like beautiful things. And sense of taste and beauty is different for everyone. But like when Saturn comes together with Venus, and Saturn likes hard work, you can be really precise and wonderfully committed to your art. So perfecting a recipe, perfecting sculpture, like, taking extra, adding little strokes to your painting could be especially enjoyable. So maybe you make a gown that you somehow I'm getting Cinderella vibes, but maybe you make the beautiful dress, the most beautiful dress you've ever made at this time. So if you are feeling like melancholic and frustrated, try to dedicate some time to the projects you love. And like I already said, that project could be you. That could be self-love. It's great for management, being a manager, being kind of problem solver, because Venus conjunct Saturn to me feels a little bit like Saturn in Libra. And people born with Saturn in Libra are very fair and just. So Venus conjunct Saturn could be your chance to fire someone. No, just kidding. Could be your chance to talk in front of a lot of people, maybe, be a leader, be that stern yet gracious and diplomatic and well-spoken figure if you need to be. There may be a new relationship around this time. It's not like the most sparks fly kind of relationship, but if you do enter a relationship or you make a commitment, it is likely to be long-lasting and stable and secure. And a chance of having a relationship with a significant age difference goes higher at this time. So let me know how it goes. Let me know if you're feeling this energy already. And let's take a quick look at what this might, or where you will feel this energy based on your rising sign. So for Aries rising, Venus will conjoin Saturn in the 11th house. And here you're looking at your there's like a need to recommit to a friendship. We just had Venus square Uranus in the second house, and maybe you had a difficulty with a friend, maybe you had some kind of conflict around money, even like conflict around money with a friend, but maybe also just a kind of disagreement about compensation or something. So now when Venus conjoins Saturn in your 11th house, you get a chance to recommit to your passion, maybe make a different plan, maybe revisit a friendship and be like serious, but talk about things with a friend, but also maybe take a serious look at whether this friendship is serving you, or maybe it doesn't serve you and it needs to be released. If you're a Taurus rising, Venus conjoins Saturn in your 10th house. Venus just squared Uranus in your first earlier, and maybe there were difficulties at work, tensions between your personal projects and the responsibilities, the career you have. So now Venus conjunct Saturn in the 10th, to me, feels like a question of, are you ready to take the next step professionally? And if you are, this might be your opportunity to, announce something potentially, or kind of go after things that you want professionally, be that opening a business or studying something, or kind of like, it's like a question of like, if you are frustrated by the authority, how can you become authority? How can you reinvent yourself and make the changes? And also maybe getting recognized for your creative skills or for the master you have, I also see as a possibility here. For Gemini rising, Venus conjoins Saturn in the 9th house. So Venus conjunct Saturn in the 9th could bring good news potentially, or, like completion of some kind of legal battle, maybe like changes connected to education. Like you need to be very, I think, like serious and committed to matters connected to education, but potentially getting like good results. Like maybe with Venus together with Saturn, you power through it, you sit down and you apply for the new program. You may have to make hard, like tough decisions, right? And say no to something, but at the same time, the results are likely going to be worth it. Even if you feel unclear, even if you feel frustrated, it's still worth it. You may have to do some work connected to travel, maybe some legal matters. Maybe you're applying for a visa and you need to sort of commit to, applying for it, filing the paperwork and gathering things. Take a look back at January 14th, what happened when Venus was squaring Uranus. If there were any disruptions and any frustrations, Venus conjunct Saturn could be a chance to move past that thing. For Cancer rising, Venus will conjoin Saturn in the 8th house. 8th house is the place of debts and taxes and shared resources, inheritance. So if you have dealt with any kind of questions of freedom, any matters connected to your financial situation, Venus conjunct Saturn will maybe you feel frustrated that things are not moving as fast and you don't have, you haven't cleared out all of your debts yet, or you haven't gotten the resources you seek yet, but you will get a chance. I think like this is the time to maybe come up with a structure, to be more serious about how you spend money, to have some kind of long-term solution. Even just like, it's like a question, what was frustrating for you on January 14th? Because now on the 22nd, you may get a chance to talk about it and work towards greater freedom financially and more understanding when it comes to the time, energy, and resources you share with other people. For Leo rising, Venus will conjoin Saturn in your 7th house. What was happening on January 14th when Venus squared Uranus? Did you deal with any professional tensions? Maybe some kind of, disagreements about your plans, your like Venus in the 7th house wants to date, but Uranus in the 10th could have thrown some kind of shakeups and professional, like a need to put out some fires professionally. So now Venus conjoins Saturn in the 7th house, and you will see whether your relationship has passed the test. Like if there is if this affected your relationship. It could be your professional relationship, it could be your marriage, a business relationship, whether that shakeup that occurred on the 14th have brought you closer with your partner or maybe has separated you. Definitely there's like a need to balance relationships and commitments here. And more than anywhere else, you know, Venus conjunct Saturn in the 7th house could be about committing to someone you're with and making a tough choice. If you have 5 admirers, choosing one. For Virgo rising, Venus conjoined Saturn in the 6th house and Venus squared Uranus in the 9th. You may have dealt with some kind of frustrations related to travel, legal matters, maybe people at work not complying and delaying you or frustrating you. And now that Venus conjoined Saturn in the 6th house, you may need to make amends. Maybe you need to kind of take responsibility for your rash actions or harsh words and sort of come out and be like, you know, I'm sorry. Maybe you will need to deal with things and sort of in a grown-up way be like, yeah, I don't like this. This is not my problem. I didn't create it, but I am going to handle it. Committing to a job or making changes to a job is also likely here. If you're feeling unhappy with the work that you're doing, this could be your opportunity to look at it seriously and be like, this is not bringing me joy. What do I do to change it? For Libra rising, Venus conjoined Saturn in the 5th house. Venus squared Uranus in the 8th on January 14th, and maybe you dealt with some kind of conflict with your partner about money, joint resources. Maybe a partner went through a job loss or something happened to their resources. Maybe you had a disagreement about how to spend money. And now that Venus conjoins Saturn in your 5th house, your relationship, you will potentially solve the problem, or you will see that you have very different views of pleasure and joy, and you may need to separate, or you may need to, you know, let the relationship go. Once again, depends on what kind of long-term potential does the relationship have. 5th house deals with creativity. So taking some time to work in solitude on a project that you feel passionate about. Maybe you don't feel as connected or as romantic at this time, but you are making moves to get that project to a better level, or you're working on your relationship. Maybe it's not the most passionate time in your relationship, but the talk you have, maybe you talk about like serious stuff, right? 5th house deals with kids. Maybe you discuss children and it's a conversation you need to have, but it's kind of a downer. Or you're like being organized when it comes to like how to spend money. Don't shy away from complicated topics. For Scorpio rising, Venus conjoined Saturn in the 4th house. Venus would have squared Uranus on January 14th, potentially bringing challenges to your relationship, to your family dynamic, tensions between your family and your partner, or their family and you. And now that, or even questions connected to your living situation, some kind of disagreement with your partner about your living situation. So now that Venus conjoins Saturn in the 4th house, you will get a chance to be a grown-up and solve some of those problems, right? Recommit to maybe your dynamic and kind of problem solve and have a serious conversation about things that have happened. There may be a chance to do some work around the house, right? Like even if you feel like you're doing a little bit more work and your partner is not doing as much work, you can still come together, you can still grow through it, and maybe come up with some kind of strategy when it comes to handling family or handling a renovation project or anything like that. Venus conjunct Saturn is like a serious moment of aligning yourself with family, aligning yourself with a home renovation project, like committing to it. And also like Venus Saturn mastery in the home, right? Like maybe you paint a table together, or maybe you spend some time working on a table. Are there, what's furniture? Table is the only type of furniture that comes to my mind, even though I'm sitting on a bed. For Sagittarius rising, Venus conjoins Saturn in the third house, and Venus would have just squared Uranus on January 14th in your sixth house. You may have dealt with professional surprises, issues to your health, things kind of falling apart in your routine, your schedule being compromised, maybe issues with siblings. And now that Venus conjoins Saturn in your third house, you are looking at your schedule through a more serious lens, and I think you are questioning your commitments. Have you been traveling too much? Have you been working too much? Have you been saying yes to too many things, right? Like maybe you've been trying to help someone at work, but now you feel like it's taking up a lot of your time. Making some serious decisions, saying no to certain time wasters is a possibility here. Coming up with a strategy, coming up with a plan, needing to maybe even take care of some technology that has broken down in your home because you tossed your keyboard, getting frustrated. So yeah, like having serious conversations, talking about significant things, and also polishing your skills. Like Venus in the third house could also, Venus conjunct Saturn in the third house could be also about taking an exam, or, you know, like needing to do more work than you would like to do for the sake of having more freedom in the future. For Capricorn rising, Venus conjoins Saturn in the second house. Venus conjunct Saturn in the second house could be about spending money on something long-term. Could be about investing money, maybe money that you would rather spend on something fun, because Venus would have squared Uranus in the fifth house on January 14th, and maybe you had a disagreement with your partner, maybe you've had some kind of creative debacle. Sometimes things just like trickle down from my brain to over here, and then I'm like, does it even make sense? But some kind of creative issue with your partner, some kind of questions about money, you know, connected to children, how to spend money. And now that Venus conjoins Saturn, you're looking at the questions of money in a more somber way. And maybe you do have to make some kind of sacrifices, but they seem worth it. Like you're looking at the financial topics from a more serious perspective, and you're able to have a better strategy when it comes to saving, when it comes to investing into things. And even if you say no to the immediate satisfaction, you're still focused on the long term. Yeah, and like Venus conjunct Saturn can also be about like getting rewarded if you've been doing a lot of hard work. For Aqua rising, Venus conjoins Saturn in the first house, and Venus would have squared Uranus on January 14th. Uranus is in your fourth house, so maybe there was some tension about your personal goals and the needs of your family, some kind of tension between your future and your past, a sense that you want to break away, you want some freedom, but not quite able to get it. And now that Venus comes together with Saturn, you may get an answer as far as like whether you're able to move past and find that freedom, or whether you need to do more work, right? Like Saturn is like a teacher who will give you an A or a D. I mean, there's all the other letters, but there might be a chance for you, like maybe you need to wait, maybe you need to be more careful, maybe you need to spend more time on perfecting your skills and focusing on yourself and getting ready to embrace a more serious role in the world. So it could be like, once again, it could be the moment of like reaffirming the work that you've done and you get a reward for the work that you've done, or it could be the time that you need to course correct and maybe be more serious for the time being and make some kind of commitment to like go back to school or to take an exam, or wait to buy a house, let's say. For Pisces rising, Venus conjoins Saturn in the 12th house, and to me this feels like the test of whether you have learned the lessons of Saturn over the course of the last 3 years since March 2020. Venus would have squared Uranus in your third house on January 14th, and you may have dealt with some kind of conflicts with siblings, neighbors, ideological debates, some of your self-defeating tendencies coming to life, being more visible because maybe you feel like you need to be right, but you don't always have to be right, or maybe you had to face. Like it feels like Venus Saturn definitely feels more like, how are you standing in your own way? How are you talking to yourself? And if January 14th was shaky and frustrating with Venus conjoining Saturn, you may have like a more clear realization of the work that you need to do, and you may be learning to master your emotions and to be more in charge of your feelings, which can lead to a better sense of self-worth and better well-being in the long run. And if there has been any issues with neighbors or siblings, this could be the opportunity that you sort of either look at things in a serious way and take responsibility for the things that you've done that maybe you're not happy with, or you know that were wrong, or you just solve the problem and you talk to them and like you apologize, they apologize, and maybe things get resolved. But yeah, it's like Venus conjunct Saturn in the 12th house. What are your self-defeating relationship patterns? What are even like past relationships that you may be still holding on to, and how can you let them go in order to bring better, more, like be more present and have happier relationships with others. This is it. I hope Venus conjunct Saturn brings a lot of positive energy into your life, like mastery and accomplishment and recognition and beautiful works of art that took a long time but are worth it in the end. So enjoy it and, you know, have a good time. Try to remember that even if you're feeling sad, it's not going to last too long. Bye.